Welcome to Canada's National Town Hall and Unfiltered. We are live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We ask that you drop your province in the comments below. We're just waiting for Josh. Josh is having some technical difficulties here for some reason this morning. He was, before the show started, he was here. And then I was over on Unfiltered TikTok for about a half an hour, spoke with our friends who follow us on TikTok for about a half an hour, and I come back and I couldn't hear anything. So hopefully Josh can get his microphone and his camera working. But in the meantime, it's just me and you, Canada, which is okay. Welcome to Canada's National Town Hall. This is Unfiltered. We ask that you drop your province in the comments below before we get started. I'd love to see where everyone's streaming from. And again, we are welcome. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook or X, welcome to Canada's National Town Hall. And we are going to get started here momentarily. Hopefully Josh can join us. We're going to be talking about a couple of things today. If you haven't seen the latest long form video on Unfiltered YouTube, I went to Alberta. I shouldn't say I live in Alberta, but I went out to some of the signing locations for the Freedom Alberta the Freedom Movement anyways. I dropped into about 5 different communities around North Alberta, kind of surrounding the capital. I wanted to chat with people who were showing up to sign the petition, wanted to get a gauge of what people were saying and what they were thinking and what motivated them to want to sign the petition. And then in Sherwood Park, I had the opportunity to meet Kathy Fletch. She was there. We were able to get a bit of an interview on, which is featured in the full-length video, which is streaming right now on Unfiltered YouTube. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And hopefully Josh can join us here. Josh is a big part of Unfiltered, co-hosting the Canada's National Town Hall. So I think he might just be rebooting his system or booting his system, one of the two. So as we get started here this morning, please drop your province in the comments below, and let's see where everyone's checking in. On TikTok just a minute ago, we had folks from Quebec, we had folks from Alberta, we had folks from Nova Scotia. Would love to see a broad spectrum again, because I do know in the comment section on all the different platforms of Unfiltered, not only do we've been able to touch every province in Canada and really starting to make an impact in the United States as well. And we welcome everyone to Unfiltered. It doesn't matter what your political belief is. It doesn't matter what your belief systems are. We created this platform to create Canada's National Town Hall, for us to sit back and, as I always say, have a coffee together. Hope you grabbed a fresh cup of coffee for today's live. Just have a coffee with each other and just talk about politics, talk about, what our government's doing to make your life better, to make your life worse, because there are things that the government does, let's be honest, that makes our life worse, not better. One of the key examples as of late in the last 10 years, the government's decision around immigration didn't make our country better. It made our country worse. It made it harder for young people in this country to find a part-time job. It was a stress on the economy, a stress on our healthcare system, a stress on our education system. We're seeing that in every single province across this country. So, yes, decisions that government makes can actually have a positive or negative effect on us, Canadians. That's why we want to have this conversation. So do me a favor, drop your province in the comments below. I see the comment section is filling up already. We're going to get to some of those in a minute. Also, too, share this video if you wouldn't mind. We'd really appreciate it if you could share this video. All right, here he is. Oh, perfect. He's back. He's back, everybody. Let's bring him in. Add to stage. Josh, my colleague Josh is finally here. We've been waiting for you, Josh.
I have no volume yet, so
okay.
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. If you look at the camera, thumbs up, we can hear you, Josh. Can you hear me, though? Josh? Maybe Josh can't hear me. Maybe Josh. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's starting to get some volume. Thanks, Canada, for just working out this through us here for just a second. Excuse me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I sure can, Josh. Can you hear me?
I can. A few technical difficulties, but
that's all right.
I think I am up and running.
You know what? You came in right at the right time. You know what the right time was?
What's that?
Where I was running out of things to say. I was just talking about how we were just on Unfiltered TikTok just a minute ago. I had folks showing up from Nova Scotia, Quebec, Alberta. I see our comment section is starting to fill up here. Oh, your puppy's in the background. That's the new puppy you got.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's wild today.
Is he wild today? So, Josh, today I wanted to bring up two things. The first we're going to just chat about quickly is the announcement today. A little bit of breaking news. They have finally figured it out, Josh. The federal NDP party has a new leader. Want to talk about that for just a minute. And then I want to get into Unfiltered was on the road this past week speaking to Albertans in Alberta about Alberta separation. Couple of things happening. In April, there's a potential injunction that's going to be logged against this movement. How does that affect them? And then two, this idea that I heard when I was out speaking with Albertans about, well, yeah, you know what? It's happening. And as soon as it happens, we're done. Well, unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. So I'm hoping Albertans will show up today, join us in that conversation. Drop your problems in the comments below. We're going to get to some of those comments here in just a second. And in fact, let's do a roll call right here. We've got Jean checking in from Alberta. Welcome, Jean. Thank you. We've got, love this, Wesley Snipes, 1969, Alberta Unfiltered. And then we've got Dawn here, Alberta here. So, and then of course we've got our good friend who always likes to show up and we appreciate his support. JBJ's back. Hi guys, Alberta here. One, Canada has always been divided, much worse now. Alberta and Saskatchewan have highest GDP per capita and lowest political influence. That's a good comment, JBG. We're going to get to that in just a second. Please keep dropping your province. Oh, this is awesome, Josh. Look at this. Yukon Robertson Jameson is here from the Yukon. I've got family up in the Yukon. Yeah. I've got family up in the Yukon. Oh. Is that saying yes for Yukon or down with the Liberal government? Which one? All right, let's get into this here. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start with this right here. We're going to chat about this quickly. Avi Lewis wins the NDP leadership party on the first ballot. So really didn't really have to go that far. Left-wing firebrand Avi Lewis cruised to the first ballot victory as the results of the NDP leadership vote were announced this morning. Lewis, an unapologetic eco-socialist running on a sweeping platform of public ownership and decarbonization. That's going to work out well here in Canada.
Well, it'll add to the division, that's for sure.
Edmonton NDP MP Heather McPherson finished a distant second with only 20,000 votes. He picked up 39,734 on the first ballot. He goes on to say, folks, this is a momentous result, but even more momentous is the unity of our party. We do have this here from the new NDP party leader.
Friends, if it isn't already obvious, we are building a new foundation for our party, and we are ready to come roaring back on the Canadian political stage. After 7 months of campaigning across this country and speaking to thousands upon thousands of Canadians, here's one thing I know for sure, and I want to say it out loud. Canada, mark your calendar. The NDP comeback starts now.
All right. The NDP comeback starts now. We're going to have to see if that's the truth or not. Canada, drop your province. If you're an NDPer watching this stream, and I hope you are, Drop your province in the comments below. Are you happy with the new NDP leader? I mean, I don't know anything about this guy. I know he's excited, ready to go. But I mean, is it too late? I mean, this was a long leadership race, Josh.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of damage done through the last election for the NDP and the failure of the coalition with the Liberals. I just don't know that it's even going to matter who's there. They need to essentially rebuild and really find their identity again in Canada. And if it's as far left as the new guy seems, I don't know that they'll ever have that much traction. What we're really missing in Canada is somebody in the middle that can really float both lines and start to bring people back together. And yeah, I just don't think that exists. Definitely not in that NDP party. So
now I'm wondering, just thinking out loud quickly, and we are going to be talking about Alberta here coming up in just a minute. So just hang in there, folks. I know a lot of folks want to talk about that. With Mark Carney on the verge of a potential majority government, with Jasmeet Singh losing his seat, stepping down as the leader having really virtually, or the party having no impact in Parliament. I'm wondering if there's some federal Liberals who didn't have a home before that might like this guy a little bit better and maybe cross the floor the other way.
Possibly. I would imagine anybody who is far enough left, this might be the right answer for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, really, if that's the direction that things go, maybe it's status quo for power in this country.
Yeah, you betcha. Want to welcome into Canada's National Town Hall, Googs Mind Bent, checking in from Alberta. Thank you so much. If you're watching the live stream either on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please drop your province in the comments below. That's what we love about this channel, is it's really driving that. Where are you watching from? We care about that. We want to hear from you, want to hear how things are, from your perspective, how things are affecting you in the region of Canada that you live in. And if you could share this live stream, that would be great. All right, let's pivot now. This past week, Unfiltered was in the greater Edmonton region, Josh. We were on the road and we were chatting with Albertans who are involved in the Alberta separation movement. I spent some time in Morinville, Alberta, which is just north of Edmonton, Sherwood Park, Alberta, Spruce Grove, Alberta, St. Albert, Alberta, and Alberta's capital of Edmonton. And I actually went to these locations where they have tables set up and they're there all day. Like some are on the side of freeways and some are in shops, owner shops, and people come in and they can sign the petition. And they're not signing to say yes to separation. They're signing because they want the chance to either say yes or no for a referendum in October. And you know what? In Sherwood Park, when I was standing, I bet you I stood at Sherwood Park for 40 minutes and there was probably 20 people that showed up within a span of 40 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
I've said this last week. I don't think that the mainstream media is really reporting on how much momentum that movement's gaining. I think I heard Danielle Smith say something about at least a third of the province has voted or is expressing their interest in a referendum. So I think we're going to be very close to that 50% mark for sure, if not over, but we'll see. And like I said, what's most important out of all this is that people are heard. That's the point of our system, is that people have a voice. They get to say what they think. The big question is where does that lead us, and what is the end result from it? Because if you get there and you don't have a plan, or if you haven't realized that there's other steps that need to be taken, just signing a piece of paper doesn't mean that we're leaving the country. And
yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? And that was the interesting part. Speaking with people from Alberta who were there, I mean, the volunteers, they're fired up, you know. And the people that came, like people were coming in between, like during their breaks on work. Hey, just I've only got 15 minutes and I got to get this done. And they drive up and then they would sign the petition. In one location, a lady did come up. She parked and then she took the long way into the store that she was going into, and she took the long way so that way she could just come up to the volunteers who were just there volunteering for this movement because they believe in it, only for her to go on to say that you're not Canadian. Which, you know, I talk a little bit about that in the long form video that's featured right now on YouTube, but you know, I really don't understand why it needs to go that far. You know, if there's a conversation happening over here that I hear about that I disagree with, I just don't go into that conversation. What's the point? Well, you just want to go in there and make yourself look like, you know, a big bad apple and kick a garbage can? Like really, you're doing more harm to yourself because you look like an idiot. Really, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Again, we kind of touched on this last week, and I believe everybody has the right to express their feelings about anything. And I'm really a proponent for free speech across the board. Going back to the whole new bill being passed, I just don't agree with any censorship whatsoever.
No.
If somebody wants to go and yell at volunteers, you have a right to do so, but you also have to face the fact that you may look stupid doing it. You know, these people are just there doing their job. They're not trying to convince people otherwise that they should believe what they believe. You know, they're just there to try and make a difference. And if we're not trying to make a difference along the way in this democratic system that we have, then we're really wasting the opportunity of the system.
Want to bring in a couple of more comments here from Aid 2.0. God bless the free nation of Alberta. Thank you for joining us here today. Along with Googs Mindbend says, would be nice for Interior BC to join us in Saskatchewan on this. Manitoba would be a great ally too. A couple of things. BC. So I grew up in Prince George. I was kind of, you know, a northern BC kid. And I've always heard that even when they drew up the boundaries between BC and Alberta, that northern Fort St. John, Pouce Coupe, Dawson Creek region, which is on the east side of the mountain there, Powder King, that whole mountain range, they all thought that they'd be a part of Alberta. Now that's just a rumor that I've always heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, it would be interesting because really there is a dynamic difference in BC between the northern part of BC, like the Prince George region, to Vancouver. Like it's night and day. Like it's completely different thinking, different ways of life, different industries.
Yeah, I grew up in Vancouver.
You did. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I finished high school in Vancouver. I was part of one of the very first environmental studies science classes ever given as an option in high school. I lived my life as an environmentalist through my entire young adulthood, making sure that people did care about important things when it came to environment and industry and stuff like that. And I still believe all of those things, despite a very long career in the oil patch. I think that both can exist together. I think that like you said, there's a drastic difference between thought in the Lower Mainland versus the rest of the province, and unfortunately, they hold all the population. So when it comes to, the vote, it really does side with those thoughts. And it's a very closed off way of thinking. My family, who I've brought to Alberta to visit, cousins and aunts and uncles, know virtually nothing about our oil industry. And when I take them out to a local cornfield and show them a pump jack pumping oil out of the ground 15 feet from the food that they're going to eat, and they realize how clean that oil site is because our government mandates such a strong emphasis on environmental cleanliness. We have one of the cleanest energy industries in the world. And you can show me pictures of Fort Mac and talk about that, but the way that we have governed it allows us to take advantage of the resources we've been given and return the environment back to as close to natural state as possible. And I think we do it better than anywhere else in the world. And I wish more people realize that.
Yeah, you know what? We really do it better than any place in the world. There is no doubt about that. I want to bring in one of the lawyers that represent the freedom movement. He was featured on another podcast this last week. He kind of brings a pretty interesting perspective here. Let's listen to Jeff Rath for a quick second.
People in Ontario and Quebec were so stupid as to elect Mark Carney as the Prime Minister of Canada. I mean, a guy that literally thinks oil and gas, who's written in his book Values, the oil and gas needs to stay in the ground, that has literally, pledged the destruction of the Western oil and gas economy. They elected him Prime Minister. And at that point, everybody in Alberta said, well, there's no hope. What are we going to do? I mean, it doesn't matter, what we do. The Pierre Poilievre can be ahead 10 or 15 points in the polls. All it takes is some liberal to say, Donald Trump is a bad man, right? And it triggers all of the Trump derangement syndrome in all of the people in Ontario and Quebec that were wearing 3 and 4 masks during COVID, right?
Jeffrey Rath. So he said something interesting there, which I've always kind of questioned. And I'm going to question not only what Rath just said there now, but I'm also going to question the community who might be watching this. If Pierre Poilievre had won the election even 4 years before, if we had a conservative government halfway through Trudeau's term, let's say, Trudeau only lasted 5 years, the Conservatives came in and they've been governing for the last 5 years, would we be here right now? Would Alberta be wanting to separate?
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing other people's opinions. My belief is no. That maybe this contention between the East and the West would still exist. I don't know that we'd be moving the yardsticks a whole bunch, but knowing that somebody is at least trying and at least listening has always delayed this movement from growing.
Yeah.
When Stephen Harper was in, we saw that as an opportunity for somebody from the West to at least finally bring our voice to Ottawa, and we got quiet for a while. So
been good for all.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that it would have at least stalled it for a bit, and maybe some opportunities would have arisen where we'd have a pipeline in the ground today.
Canada, what do you think? This is Canada's National Town Hall. Drop your province in the comments below. If you're from Alberta, give us your thoughts from that perspective. Really want to hear, if you're from Alberta, and if we had a conservative government, say for the last 5 years, and we haven't seen the destruction of our country under a liberal government like we've seen it, would we still be here? We want to welcome to the show Vince Gosling, 6731, checking in from Alberta. JBJ says to us, black shale, critical minerals, and lithium. Huge potential in Alberta, as well as expanding oil, gas, petrochemicals, all of which Eastern Canada doesn't seem to want to profit from. So when I was on my road trip, and please drop your province in the comments below. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from your perspective. When I was on the road trip, I was able to run into one of the speakers who, when they have these informational town halls, she speaks at quite a bit of them. Her name's Kathy Flett. Well-spoken individual. Well-spoken. And I was able to actually chat with her a little bit about this movement and what she's hearing from Alberta. I just want to play this one reel that we dropped on Facebook this morning. I've got two of them here now. I don't know which one I'm going to be playing first. See if it's this one, because there's two of them that I want to. No, that's not the one. We're gonna talk about that one here in a second. This one, then. It's got to be this one. Yeah. Yeah. This is this. So I want to hear, I want to play for you what she says in this very short clip.
It's just never been good for Alberta. Every time we try to do good and we're almost doing good, the feds come at us and take it all away again. It's just.
Right. So she's saying that every time Alberta is starting to do good, the feds somehow, make it bad for Alberta again. Here's my question, Josh. Based on what she just said there, her perspective, and hers isn't the only perspective that way. I've heard this from many different Albertans. Is this just a whining session for Alberta? Is Alberta just whining because they're not getting what they want? Is that how the rest of Canada is viewing this? Because I brought it up on Unfiltered TikTok a minute ago. It doesn't seem Canada views Quebec separation the same way they're viewing Alberta separation. They're two distinctly different telescopes of how Canada views it.
Well, maybe it's that there's more to lose if Alberta leaves.
Well, there is that, yes. Even for Quebec. Even for Quebec, there's more to lose, right?
That's right. And I don't want to downplay one province's plight for another. I think that we all have our reasons and our struggles. But I have heard recently somebody who I think is very right-wing. He's a local farmer. He said, last time I checked, Alberta as a whole or as a province is doing really well. And most people living here are doing quite well compared to the rest of the country. And maybe we are whining a little too much.
Somebody actually said that to you?
Yeah. He said he understands completely with why people are upset, but he said, if you look around, we're all doing pretty good in this province compared to other provinces.
Right? Regardless, yes.
Yeah, and I agree to some extent. Now, I've also lived here for the last 30 years, I guess, roughly. And so I've been through boom and bust through the oil patch. I've seen good times and bad times. And I'm personally, as you age, you grow a little bit with responsibility and finances. But I see my kids; they are struggling to get going as they enter adulthood, and things are harder. I see an easy way out of that for the entire country. We have been given this wonderful land full of resources that the world needs, and why are we ignoring that? And I think that we are the exact country that is responsible enough to regulate how those resources are pulled from the earth. Compared to any other country in the world, Canada would do it better than anyone. So why wouldn't we build that?
No, for sure. We got some comments coming in here pretty good here that I want to bring up here, Josh. We've got right here, this one. Remote viewer 57, no, as an Albertan, we are done with the way we are. Okay, but here's the thing. How are you treated? Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, treated how? Is it equalization? Is that the biggest? Yes. You know what? I think there's a lot of people in Canada that can agree that the equalization program is kind of upside down. Even I hear that from even the East on a lot of unfiltered comment sections. But outside of that, we are done with the way I've heard that. What does that mean?
I think there's a lot lost in translation there. I think when people say that we're done with the way we're treated, what it means is they're done with not having their vote count for anything.
Okay.
I honestly think that that's what it boils down to. We know that liberal politics don't really fit the mold for the West. You can see it in just the numbers of votes. How many liberal seats are there in Alberta or Saskatchewan? you know,
virtually zero. Yeah.
Right. So when we vote conservative and we still don't get, we get very few conservative governments, people just get tired because it doesn't move the yardstick enough for the direction we're trying to lead our families and our society in the West. So
but that was Preston Manning's whole movement with the Reform Party, right? The West wants in, right?
Yeah.
So are we losing that?
It worked when
Sure.
So I know you and I talked before the show about my thoughts on what happens if Alberta doesn't separate. What's the next move? How do you follow that up? How do you keep your momentum going so your voice isn't lost in a "we told you so, now shut up"?
Right.
So I just had this thought experiment on what happens if the West unites with their own Western Bloc party, that essentially conservatives step away from the federal Conservative Party and create their own Bloc party. There's a few things that went through my head when that happened. Does it hand the Liberals a win for the next 4 years? You bet it does. But does it start to put strength back into the West and their decision and their ability to force the federal government to make decisions based on what we want, so that they're, not held to a no confidence vote every time they do something? I think it would. And I think eventually, whether it be 1 or 2 terms down the road, you would see something similar to the Reform Party, where conservatives come back together stronger than ever before. So
I want to get to actually a couple of Facebook comments here. Cindy says Alberta is listening to, waiting for Independence Day. And there was another one here too that I wanted to bring up. Where did it go? Here it is right here. John says off Facebook, no pipelines law, carbon taxes, liberal taxes. Conservatives are the opposite of liberals. Absolutely. But, again, there's a couple of paths of what you just said that we could go down, and I don't know which one to go down on, because, are we like with your idea, Josh, which is a good idea, because there's a part of me that thinks that if this movement doesn't progress in Alberta, then is there going to be a Bloc Québécois party started here in Alberta? Meaning, is there going to be a separatist party started in Alberta to take on Premier Danielle Smith in the UCP party?
I think we've already heard rumors of that and seen some action towards that statement. But it honestly, in my mind, it doesn't work unless if the entire West unites with something like that. And you'd have to be organized. You'd have to pull over a lot of the conservative members to your movement. And yeah, it could work. I don't know, but
okay,
it was one of those morning thoughts that I just
right. So drop your province in the comments below. Do you agree with what Josh is saying there? We'd love to hear your thoughts, not only from Alberta, but across the country. This is Canada's National Town Hall. I know Albertans are fired up about this. I see Dwayne's in the chat. Naomi's in the chat. We're gonna get to some of those here in a second. But over on TikTok, when I did a live on TikTok just before we launched this show here today, somebody said that they were, a viewer said that they lived in Alberta, love Alberta, are voting for independence, but they don't like Danielle Smith, which I found to be a little surprising, because at the end of the day, whether you like this statement or not, from a 50,000-foot view, I believe that if you want this Alberta independence movement to move forward, you cannot turn your back on Premier Danielle Smith right now. In fact, she's paved the way for your group to be able to get this referendum question in October.
Yeah, Danielle Smith's somebody that I really admire as far as a leader goes, and I really don't see some of the things that both people on the left and people on the right who support the separation movement think about her. What I really worry about is that disdain creeping in and a second Conservative Party, Reform Party branches out, and next thing you know, we've got Nenshi. And
right,
when you know that's the reality of it. This whole movement doesn't have enough strength to really replace the UCP. It's a split vote at best, and I really do hear everybody in the comment section talking about being done and we've got the votes and stuff. But then what? What if we don't? What if we don't separate?
We're gonna, you know what? Just hang on to that thought for just a second, because I've got something that I want to play for you here. And Berta Proud Dad's been being, in my opinion, kind of unfairly attacked by this guy, but we're going to bring that up in just a second. But two things. One, we're going to go through some comments here because they're coming in pretty fast and furious now. But Alberta, what would you rather have, independence or Nenshi? Really? Like, what would you rather have? Independence or Nenshi? Because really, like it I don't know, Josh, like they're kicking a can down the road that could split a vote. Check this one out from No Name, from YouTube. To vote for, and this really, I think, captures a lot of the sentiment in Alberta. To vote for over 10 years and have our voice ignored. We tolerated being ignored for over a decade. Now we're done. You know what? You can say that. It doesn't, like that No Name comment, and thanks for your comment. Someone from BC could have said that. Someone from Alberta could have said that. Saskatchewan could have said that, or Manitoba could have said that.
100%. Yeah, the West really is on its own here. Our vote has very little effect in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree. Yeah, the voice has been ignored. But I just don't know that the people who are ready to leave are going to get what they want. And then what? You know, I said it last week. I cannot think of a single country that was born out of a nonviolent movement.
Yeah.
Remote viewer did it, it would be the first time. So
yeah. Remote viewer, I'm Albertan. Send me your link. I'm not sure what link you're asking for. If you want to give us more details there, either in the chat or you can always email me, dan@unfilteredcdn.com as well. Would love to get that up actually on the screen, Josh. I don't know if you're able to do that or not, but I don't know where we would put that. But you can get a hold of me direct, dan@unfilteredcdn.com. Got to bring in Dwayne. Dwayne's a massive supporter of this channel. Appreciate you, Dwayne. Alberta has the signatures. We will have our freedom vote. Now, okay, Dwayne, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate how excited you are about the vote. But how do you know? How do you know if you have the signatures? Because that's not the signatures aren't verified yet. They've been collecting since January 1st, but the canvassers, they were allowed to start collecting January 2nd. It took a couple of weeks for canvassers to get given the right, I guess, from Elections Alberta. So they've been collecting signatures for probably a month and a half. Do you have the signatures? I don't know. Does anybody really know that? Here's another one off of YouTube. Federal Conservatives punish Albertans less, but they really can't do anything about Alberta concerns and hope to stay in power. Here's one about Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith is a World Economic Forum member. Okay, we're going to park that one. Cindy says Alberta has finished bowing down to monarchy globalism. Canadian government pledges their allegiance to a king, not to the people. We, the people, need our own constitutional laws made by the people. No, yeah. Please keep the comments coming, Josh. This is fantastic because we've asked.
Yeah, and I want to just address remote viewer here. He's putting lots of comments in here. You know, I just want him to know that, or her, I'm not sure if it's a guy or girl, but you're being heard. There's no, if anything, I know, Dan, you try and present fairly unbiased view to just get the conversation going. I know where I stand in all of this. And like I said last week, people aren't going to like me for my stance. I'm Canadian. I do not want to leave Canada despite supporting the separation movement. I feel wholeheartedly that is our right to place our vote and voice our opinions. And the most important thing to me is to make sure that voice is heard. And the more we can shout and speak up, the better. I just don't see the outcome that the rest of that movement sees. And that's not something I want. I'm proudly Canadian. I feel our country's broken just like everybody else does, but I'd rather fix it than break it. So,
new comment here from Maple Boy. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. Maple Boy says Carney run Canada. I think Maple Boy meant to say Carney ruined Canada there. At the end of the day, Alberta's on two tracks, right? The first track is Danielle Smith's plan, which is a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. Track number two is the potential of Alberta separation, barring success on April the 7th and the injunction, and then a successful vote. But we're gonna springboard to the next topic within this conversation. Keep it coming, Alberta and Canada. Would love to hear from outside of Canada. We have a lot of folks in the Alberta chat. Love that. Love the Alberta folks. You're really banging the drum for independence, but I'd love to hear outside of Canada. And we posed the question earlier in the conversation, does the rest of Canada just view Alberta as whining? And Josh, you even brought up how you heard a farmer in southern Alberta say, there's a little bit of whining going on here. Is it just whining? Outside of Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Ontario, Eastern Canada, do you find that Alberta is whining? Or does Alberta have a legitimate gripe, I guess? I wanted to say another word, but I really don't like swearing. It just don't like doing that. Capture that new notification. Interesting. Okay, I want to play this reel here. Now, content creator Alberta Proud Dad. In fact, I'm going to cancel this here just quickly. Gosh, I hope I get better at doing this, Josh.
You were ahead of me today. How can you get in?
We just need a producer of the show soon. And thank you for supporting us and having this channel grow, because Josh and I have had fun. This is episode 3. We're having so much fun doing these, and they're growing each and every week, which is awesome. All right, so content creator in Alberta, Alberta Proud Dad. Do you know if I can get rid of this notification? Oh, right there. Content creator Alberta Proud Dad. Lawrence is his name. Great guy. Never met him, but I watch his stuff. How do I know he's a great guy? Because him and I have texted back and forth on a few things. He's doing some really good work here in Alberta. Great content. This guy, this Anthony guy out of BC, I just don't get him. Like he's been coming at Alberta Proud Dad for all the answers. And I just don't understand. I want to play this for you. Canada, give us your thoughts. Drop your comments in the comments below.
Day one after the declaration of Albertan sovereignty, you wake up in a new country. You've got bills to pay. Simple question, what currency are you using that morning? Are your bank accounts still in Canadian dollars? Are they frozen, converted? To what? You get 60 seconds. Direct answer, no slogans, no speeches, just a plan.
Okay, Anthony, let's break apart what you just did there. All he's doing there, in my opinion, is he's coming into the room and kicking a garbage can.
It's the same. I think that's the issue here, is that everybody feels like there is a simple solution to a complicated problem. And when you break it down to, well, what do you do in the first minute of independence? Well, it doesn't happen in a minute. It
Right.
happens over the course of probably a year or more of organizing and nothing happens at the blink of an eye. And again, I'm going to go back to, I cannot think of a single example in the world where a country was born out of a non-violent situation. So
Right.
it would be brand new precedent for everybody if this happens anyway. So,
And this is kind of, so Anthony, you know what, as a fellow content creator, smarten up, like, and I don't mind debating you on this because it'd be a really short debate, Anthony. You have to understand or realize that there is a process, and anybody can find what that process is. And right now, Alberta's in the process of gathering signatures in order to have this referendum added to the referendum questions in October. First step. Second step is the overwhelming majority. Who sets the number? Who sets the number for overwhelming majority? It's not Premier Smith. I would probably venture, I'm just guessing, I don't know. Maybe Kathy Flett would know this. We're going to feature Kathy again here in a minute. Gosh, she's a great speaker, by the way. If you ever get a chance to watch Kathy speak, go out and she is dialed in. Is it the Prime Minister of Canada that sets the unprecedented amount? Is it the King of England, Josh? Because we're still a constitutional monarchy. Whether we like it or not, we still fall under the monarchy.
I know he's the final signature on it.
Right?
That I do know. So
here we go.
Get it through every level, and the king could turn around and say, "No, I don't agree," and then what?
Right?
Again, there's more to this than, it's not a simple solution. There's a lot that has to happen. It needs strong leadership. I'm not sure that the people who are organizing it are the people who would lead it following the referendum. I'd like to think that we would have, I've always said that the person who leads a province or a country has to be the smartest person in the room. And I sometimes wonder about the people on both sides of this. So,
right. Remote viewer says elections, Alberta sets the parameters. Remote viewer also says Kathy will set you straight. You were both biased and uninformed. You know what? I appreciate the comment, remote viewer 57. We're just asking questions, because that's what this show is really all about. It's about asking questions, getting perspectives. Dwayne also said a really good comment here a second ago that I wanted to highlight. Where did it go? My gosh, people are coming in. I can't find it here. Maple Boy 46. I believe in unity. Appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. Here's a new one. Some people, maybe most people, still think bat suit flu was done all by design. Yeah, I think he's referring to COVID there.
I think so, yeah.
Here it is. This is the one. Dwayne says, Mitch had said once, the vote wins in October. We could be independent by 2027. I've heard that too. Jeff Rath has said the same thing. So you win the vote. Let's just walk this through. You win the vote. Unprecedented majority is set. We still don't know by who. Okay. I've been told it's the Prime Minister, because at the end of the day, Parliament's involved in this process. Mm-hmm. I've also been told that the negotiations that are supposed to happen after, I've heard that it's the divorce negotiations, who gets what, the split up of assets. And I've also heard that it's, on the other side of the coin, is the negotiation is they try to entice Alberta not to leave. I don't know which one it is. I've tried to get Mitch Sylvester on Unfiltered, unsuccessfully. I'm hoping to have Mitch Sylvester on Unfiltered to be able to ask him some of these questions. Because I hope in leading this charge, because at the end of the day, it's his question. He's the guy. He should be able to answer some of these questions, because it doesn't happen. Here's the thing, Josh. Just because you win the vote doesn't mean you stop paying taxes the next damn day. No. And just because you win the vote doesn't mean that you stop using Canadian currency the next day. There, I answered your question, Anthony.
The other part of this too is Yeah, this is so complicated. So if the vote comes through and I don't care if it's 100% of Albertans that want to leave.
Yeah.
If we can all sit here and agree that Alberta, or even the West as a whole, is Canada's meal ticket, then what makes you think they're going to let you leave?
Right?
Like, I'm not going to just let the biggest contributor to, or one of the biggest contributors to our economic growth just walk out the door. So I think you're right. There'd probably be some enticement to stay, or yeah, I'm interested in, after October, what does the landscape look like? It's not a bias. I know I'm seeing that get tossed around quite a bit right now. I care deeply about this whole topic, but it's not as simple as
everybody thinks.
You can feel as strongly as you want about something. It doesn't mean that your beliefs and your feelings are going to make it come true. You know,
and Josh, we've given them credit because they do deserve credit. Actually, I want to bring this comment
100%.
first.
Yeah, like I said, I have the same beliefs and feelings. It's just
this kind of goes into, I think, something that you said a few minutes ago. You know, all of these different countries all separated from their original countries peacefully without any bloodshed.
Thank you, because I could not come up with any in my head, and I am a history buff, but those are obviously ones that I was unaware of. I'll definitely. I want to know more about how they separate, because maybe that will shed light on what would happen here.
Yeah, you know, they've done a really great job in organization. I think probably one of the best movements in organization I have ever seen. And I mean, when they had their big rally in Calgary, they had thousands of volunteers there to take signatures. Like, it was a massive event, and they filled the hall. They do deserve credit. They do deserve to be looked upon respectfully for what they're trying to do. Here we go. I'm going to pause that thought, because this is good. Man, Quebec gets pampered when they try to leave. What concessions could Ottawa possibly offer? That goes back to what we were talking about previous. Do we look at Quebec separation differently than Alberta? Back to my comment. Great organization, really, in my opinion, Josh, really bad optics in what's the best way to say this? Teaching or communicating the process after, because there's so many people that think if this passes, it's over.
Yeah,
it's done, and it's not. There's so many. It could take years for this to actually happen, if it actually ever happens.
And in that time, you have to ensure that the general population still feels the same way through that process, because feelings can change. Carrots can be placed on the table that all of a sudden change people's minds. World politics can influence what happens. So, yeah, I feel like I'm part of that same fight. I'm standing back, looking at it and saying, okay, we have direction, then what?
And you know what? And I think that's where a lot of people outside of Alberta, meaning in the other countries, would maybe change their mind, because there really hasn't been a plan offered. I've been told we'll go to the Alberta Prosperity Project website, and the plan is there. But, you know, those are proposed plans, because those are ideas. I would call them more ideas than plans, because at the end of the day, regardless of what happens on October, in October, Premier Danielle Smith is still the premier. And that's one part of the conversation I've never heard anybody talk about. She is still constitutionally elected as the leader of the province of Alberta, regardless of where this vote goes. And post-vote, She's still the premier of Alberta. Where does she? For Anthony, who wanted to know about the currency on day one, that's not the question. The question is, how do you view and value Premier Danielle Smith post yes in the answer to the question of Alberta separating? Because if you turn your back on the UCP, we're only going to be left with an NDP government, and then your whole drive is done, yeah. And you won't get it back.
And I'd hate to see the things that they put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Oh, absolutely. Danielle Smith's given the province of Alberta a gift in this citizen initiative referendum questions. And I've heard her say time and time and time again, she wants to hear from the people. She wants to give the people an opportunity to give that government direction. What premier in the last, I'm 52, 50 years, let's say, have you ever heard a premier actually say that other than maybe Ralph Klein?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I see No Name here commented, and I agree completely. That no matter what it looks like after a referendum, you can't take away from the fact that Danielle Smith has had every Albertan's back on both sides. She has not taken a stance where separatism is good in her book or bad. She said, here's the platform. You're all open to the same opportunity to vote yes or no. Let's hear it so we know where we stand. Now, I look at this. I negotiate every day in my job. I negotiate deals. And the one thing that I've learned is that for any deal to happen, both parties have to give and take. Mm-hmm. And a side that holds all the power, deals don't get done. Yep. It goes their way. So, you have to make sure that when we get to the finish line of this, that Alberta has enough leverage on their side to get what they want. And if it's not going to be separatism, then is it going to be something that we can live with? Mm-hmm. And people need to start thinking about that before we get to the finish line and our legs get cut out from under us and we have no steam left in the engine to actually get something that helps us. So I would like to start hearing people on that side come up with, none of these solutions where it's all Alberta's taking this and taking that and we're leaving, because it's not realistic. It's, there has to really be some thought put into that. And I just don't hear it right now.
Love this comment from Republic of Alberta. Ralph Klein gave us our referendum legislation. Times were so good under King Ralph. I remember when he held up the sign, paid in full. Actually, back when I was in radio and television, I had the pleasure of being able to interview Ralph Klein on a number of different occasions. And really, what you saw is what you got. Yeah. Well, and honestly, I don't think Alberta's seen a premier like Ralph Klein until Danielle Smith. And this is where, again, I get really passionate about this topic. And whenever I am engaged in conversation with people about Alberta's potential separation movement, I'm not for it or against it. It's the democratic right that has been given by the province of Alberta to the people of Alberta to exercise. I respect that right. There's no right or wrong in that. If you disagree with it, you have the okay to disagree with it, but you don't need to attack the people who are getting the signatures. But you can't throw Premier Danielle Smith and the United Conservative Party out of the conversation. You need them. You need them just as much as you need to convince people the why behind this referendum.
Yeah.
Oh man, whew. This has been a.
It's good to see that everybody is passionate about this topic. I'm seeing kind of a blend of opinions here. Obviously on the side of Alberta First, which I totally support. I keep seeing the word bias coming around there, and it's hard for me to bite my tongue because I don't feel that way. I just, I saw a comment. Well, Canada just takes from Alberta, and that's how it's always been. I agree 100%. I agree that Canada is broken.
Yeah.
I agree that we need to fix it. But where I stand on this is, I want to see it fixed. I don't want it broken. And if that's the way it goes, if that referendum comes and Alberta separates and that becomes the new reality, is that we become our own country, I'll support that. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I think it's not going to be so easy.
Remote viewer has a statement for you there if you want to highlight it. Here's the other question. What happens, and this is a topic for another day, because
to be fair, I grew up in Vancouver, but I was born in Calgary. So
exactly. Just for me too. I grew up in BC, moved to Alberta when I was 19.
And I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else. So
yeah,
I'm Albertan to the bone.
For sure. And again, regardless of how you look at it, I think, sure, if you're in the separation camp and you don't win, you still have a premier of a province that wants to remove Ottawa's influence on the province of Alberta by creating a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. And there's nothing wrong with option B.
No, that's kind of where I've slotted myself in since the beginning was, Quebec likes the deal they've got. Why shouldn't we be given the same ability to be sovereign within Canada? Make our own rules. The crappy thing is that we're landlocked and we have to go through our neighbors to be able to, expand our economy beyond what it is right now. And that's a struggle. And that, I think, has been one of the biggest struggles for Alberta, is that ability to define our own prosperity.
I like this comment here from Maple Boy. He says, I don't get the point of a country of 5 million. So my understanding is that there's and in the comments, Dwayne, maybe you can comment on this, or JBJ. It sounds like you guys are dialed in. But my understanding is that if they win, they want to move to a republic system. I mean, I again, it's one of those, what does it look like post? Yes. The nice part is, Josh, we have several months to have several more national town halls around Alberta and separating in the coming months. Interesting, though. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in April with this potential injunction. And I don't know if it can completely railroad the movement or what.
Maybe it'll try. I think that they've built too much steam to really make it go away. Again, the struggle that I foresee is not getting to the referendum. It's what do you do after it? So you can put injunctions in place. That's just going to actually probably kick the hornet's nest even more, if I had to bet. If we're sitting at 30 or 40% of the population signed right now, I could see that increasing to your 50%.
It's a big conversation. Canada and Alberta flooded the comment sections, and we really appreciate that. Again, we appreciate everyone bringing their view to this conversation. Even if some believe that Josh and I are biased, we're just trying to create a conversation, ask some hard questions, because I don't think those hard questions are being asked. And there are a lot of what ifs. I mean, like, you can't sit here and say there aren't what ifs. There are what ifs. And kind of like in the words of Roddy Piper, just when you think you know the answers, they're going to change the questions.
I want to address this one.
Yeah, go ahead. And then we're going to wrap her up here. It's been an hour and,
what we need in Alberta, what we need in Canada
Yeah.
is a Canadian-owned and controlled pipeline that doesn't go through the States. That really gets our product to Tidewater without it having to go down and through Washington, where somebody else can decide whether or not it works one day or the next. So, is it a step in the right direction? It's a plan B. What really Smith was trying to push for was for Carney to come to the table and greenlight a project so that we didn't have to go that way. And he's missed his deadline for that. So now she's going to make decisions that are better for Canada or for Alberta. And it's not the best solution, though.
Yeah. I still can't believe we don't really have one from coast to coast here. Like
Yeah, it's a problem. Somebody else I noticed made a comment about Canada blocking trade east and west, and I saw another one about Canada not buying Alberta product. I agree with all of that. Yeah, and it
for
should
sure.
be happening. Our price in fuel could be much lower today if we had a Canadian solution.
$1.74 here in Alberta. I don't know what it is across the country. I
paid $1.89 yesterday.
Did you really? Hey, holy smokes!
This, lucky.
Yeah. This has been Canada's National Town Hall with Unfiltered, Episode 3, live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Josh, as always, it's been a pleasure. We'll be back here next Sunday. And to be continued. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.